Guys, you're a magnet for joy. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. We have Zach, we have Taylor, we have Isaac. They're officially on the radio now. They crept under the show before 8:30. What a joy celebrating your 30th anniversary as a band. Obviously, you've been together longer than 30 years because you're brothers.
Yes.
That's true.
That's
We met as
in
young
utero,
naked children.
We shared a womb.
No, we did not actually. Well, technically we did. I guess not at the same time.
Not at the same time.
Yeah.
You stayed in the same hotel, not just simultaneously at the same kind of weekend.
It gets weird. Yeah,
it does get weird.
Yeah.
But it's funny though, isn't it? Because you are going around celebrating this 30th Hanson celebrating their 30th anniversary. Yeah, as a band, but not as actual human beings.
As family, we go back a few more years.
Yeah, of course you do.
Not a whole lot more than that.
I was 6 when we started singing. Our first sort of paid gig was when I was 6. So
And that was 30 years ago.
yeah,
I remember changing your nappy on TFI Friday. I really do remember that, your diaper. And so, for people who don't know, what's great about these, the power of now / rewind moments that we're enjoying a lot of and embracing now. You know, we're not stepping back from the words, you're diving into them because it's fantastic, isn't it? You know, and you do get this moment in your career. We all get it. You go, I'm not sure about that. I want to be more about the future. But you know, the past is the foundation of the future anyway.
Of course, yeah.
So you got the power of now. You got your rewind moment, and the great thing about these conversations is we can go back to your origin story if you like.
Sure.
So and obviously you're brothers. That's the essence of
That
your
is the
origin
first
story.
part of our origin story. Yes.
I'm always surprised. People ask us, they're like, do you still play like the old songs? I'm like, are we a band? Do you want to go see Paul McCartney and him not play any Beatles songs?
Yeah.
Me either.
I think our education came from rock and roll. I mean, I think that's one of the things that's been a huge advantage to us is we started off hearing artists that were in a way already, in
classic world.
ingrained in history as having lasted. Like we heard early rock and roll 50s, 60s stuff. And so when we were kids in the 90s, of course we were hearing all the bands that were breaking then too, but that was our benchmark, truly, kind of almost older than our parents.
I mean, the stuff that we first fell in love with, or at least I know I personally fell in love with, but maybe the most of anybody even was that late 50s, like Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and the list goes on.
And then into soul music
stuff.
and R&B,
absolutely.
And so now we
Jackson
do have
5.
this history where we've been playing music. Most people around the world, we met a lot of people 25 years ago when MMMBop came out.
Yeah, and it all comes through because your talent and your performative potential, what you have to give is so comprehensive, and because you can sense all that's in there. And of course, you two guys, Taylor and Isaac, before you auditioned the kid at the end, Zach, to join the band, because you were the Hanson brothers, like the Everly brothers, the Hanson brothers.
We need a drummer.
And you were because you were singing a cappella covers by the likes of the people you've just mentioned.
Absolutely,
exactly.
And there was actually a point where we did do a few gigs before Zach joined the band.
One particular performance, I think, before you
Christmas
guys were like, we need a third part.
Anybody know anyone?
Who's cheap? And shout out to Zach, because it's one of those things, like, we have kids now, and it is really weird. I mean, I look back at what we did, and it is really unusual, because I think to myself, I know 6-year-olds, and 6-year-olds doing the melody, be like, hey, Zach, take the melody. I'll go low, Taylor go high, sing the song. And Zach's sitting there going, na, 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 na. And you're like, actually, now that I took that for granted, that was actually a very
That's still what he's doing.
thing.
He's still playing a video
Zach,
game.
you were very underappreciated, let me tell you.
Aren't all drummers underappreciated?
As a super talented, singing drummers especially, for heaven's sake.
Man, it's hard to get a better job than this.
Oh,
you just
my goodness
hit
me.
things, you sing.
Sometimes you hit your brothers.
Get to see the world.
I mean, that's the thing, because bands have the turbulence. We all have our turbulence with co-workers and friends and family and whatever. But if you're in a band with your brothers, does that make it better or worse, or can it be a bit of both? How does it pan out?
This is the only version we know, so we can only really speak with experience. It has its ups and downs. I mean, the problem is you go home for holidays and mom's like, "Hey guys, you're having problems." Like, no, we're fine.
That was exactly what I was going to say. It's like, non-brother bands don't get the mom guilt trip at Thanksgiving.
Mom always knows.
Sorts it out.
Always knows. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing about being a band for a long period of time is just sort of, do you still have the same goals? Do you still have the same reasons? Do you still want the same things? And that's what you have to work on. It's like, because I don't want the same things I wanted when I was 6 or 12 or 18 or 25, right? And so, here at Life, 5 kids and doing this for 30 years, you need different things. And can you still match up? Can you still find those shared things you can be fighting for.
Yeah.
A huge part of what a lot of our story now has been after our second record, you've seen the music industry change. Like we saw it front row. We were on a big label, got signed to one, got bought by another label, and so on our third record, we got off. We pushed our way out and
because
started
we had
our
no
own,
home there because they didn't actually
well,
like us.
started our label,
Was
and so I think being independent too, like you trust the fans, and you reach out to that audience, and so the community we feel now is really amazing. I mean, we're going to be, you were saying True Blue World Tour. I think we're going to be in 93 cities this year in 4 continents, and we'll be in Australia and Latin America. And it's just, you're just glad you get to still walk out, like you said, go out on stage and do it.
So much to talk about. You're again back to how it all started for you. So you all started on the piano, all of you, including you, Zach, as well.
All started on the piano.
Yeah.
I quit playing piano because I wouldn't count for the teacher, of course. And
Right.
That was before I was
Well, you had
playing
it all
drums.
going on at home,
Before I
that's
was
the
playing
thing.
drums, and then
God
now
and or
I'm just-
fate has a sense of humor. They were like, and then now you will be a drummer.
all you do is count.
Fate said,
Yeah, we all started on piano, all sang. Our parents had some singing background, particularly our mom.
Come on, tell us about that.
Yeah,
Tell us about
so
your mum.
she
More
had,
about your mum.
She had a background. She went to college for voice. She didn't finish
She had a
because she
full
got
ride.
busy having kids and life, and said,
Yeah.
"I don't really want to do this as a job."
Yeah.
But she's great singer, and you realize that so much just comes from your DNA, right? Right? It's there.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of you taking advantage of it. So
Yeah.
we grew up in Oklahoma and
Yeah.
played kind of all around there. Some in Texas, some in Kansas and
and
Arkansas, and after about 5 or 6 years, we had a record deal, and it was like, okay, so this is what people do, right?
Sold a few thousand indie records, hawking our wares at every little
Which must have been
arts
fun.
festival. and
back when we
everything.
were still looking stamps to send out the mailing
Yeah,
list.
but what halcyon days, what great memories, And again, it makes you bomb-proof, doesn't it? As far as you can be bomb-proof in this industry.
Well, I mean, just having the grit. I mean, the word grit. I don't know if it has the same meaning
it
everywhere
does.
else, but it is.
Love that word.
It's survival. It's
Quitters
kind
don't
of-
quit. No,
it's-
quitters don't quit. God, I don't know what it
It's
is.
fortitude, if when you've looked the stamps, you're like, man, email blasts are fantastic.
Well, no, it makes me think too. Like, there's all these funny stories. Like, I think going back, so we we were discovered at a festival in the U.S. called South by Southwest, and they take it. They're like, oh, Hanson, we were discovered there. We were standing on a street. No one invited us, busking on the
And
street.
everyone ignored us.
Right, everyone except one guy ignored us, and he wasn't a manager; he was an attorney.
And
He's
he
like,
became
I
our
want to be
manager."
your attorney. We're like, we don't need one. He's like,
We need a manager. And
I'll be a manager. These stories are these grit stories. They're really kind of, it's kind
Gritty.
of gritty. Yeah.
It's not dissimilar to Justin Bieber. If you see some of those early
Yeah.
YouTubes of him singing in malls and things like that, and playing drums with his mum in the kitchen, I mean, they are astounding. And I can't help imagine it was like having 3 Biebers together. I bet it blimmin' well was.
less monkeys.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, I mean, it is probably, there's a lot of similarities to it. I mean, it's interesting too, because you can only follow the path you've got. And for us, I mean, I remember very vividly just being very clear about it. Like, we're going to sing. I mean, Michael Jackson did it. Elvis did it. Those guys did it. Look, what's
not
next? Where are we going? Like,
The
what's,
youthful exuberance.
let's,
like,
that fearless confidence. But I mean, having the confidence to take the chance and reach out and sort of fall on your face. I mean, for now, I kind of worry about artists today that they're doing this YouTube, hey, I sit in front of a screen and I just turn off comments. But playing live is like one of the most, formative things, because you got to win that crowd over.
Well, it's the Beatles, isn't it? On the Reeperbahn in Germany, it's the flying hours.
Absolutely.
That's what it is. And you can absolutely tell, because I think the most important thing about that isn't, it's only my opinion, is the fact that because you had been doing what you do now so long as children anyway, there wasn't any fear about performing. You couldn't wait to perform. There was no trepidation. There was no sort of anticipation of getting on stage and that nervousness before that only releases itself when you play live. The stage was your home. This is where you live, and to take where you live on tour. I mean, that is you have to be confident in other ways. Sure, you do around this, but the heart of what you do was never in doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if anything, we're
write
kind of
songs about it, actually, too.
the music side. I mean, that's the thing. When you go back to early interviews, we're like, we're kind of a boring interview because we've said the same thing. Guess what? Here's a strange thought. We're here because of music.
Yeah. And we're really good at it.
What a concept, Like, we keep saying, well,
We like songs.
We used to say, think of us as old guys with high voices when we were first breaking out, because we're like, this is where we are now. But here we are, and we're 30 years into being a band, and it's it's the energy of being proud of where you've been, and then also being excited for what could be next, and being creative every
good
night.
for you. It's absolutely, honestly, it's such a joy to see. You were always joyful anyway, and I couldn't wait for you to come back and see how you are. And do you know what? You're exactly the same, to be honest. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm sure there have been destabilizing moments, but you were clearly. You love each other. That's coming across, in truckloads this morning. You are still loving what you're doing. Did you have to ever re-engage with it, or have you always loved it?
Well, I think there's a lot of moments of re-engagement. I even think this last couple of years where you kind of your whole career is taken from you, right? You're talking about loving performing. Nobody can perform. Nobody can go anywhere.
It's like we were non-essential all of a sudden. And of course, everybody stopped going to concerts. Then everybody all of a sudden got really upset.
Yeah.
And you wonder why. It's like because everyone stopped being able to get together and be like, "Yeah, we're here for the same thing."
There's lots of moments of having to choose to kind of go, hey, let's do it. Let's re-engage. Let's start again. Taylor talked about 20 years ago, basically when we started our label.
Yeah.
I mean, it's full of that, but there's just so much there. Like if you're willing to kind of get past yourself, music gives back so much to you that it's sort of hard to walk away from.
I love that. So get past yourself, or get out of your own way,
right?
Or take anything seriously but yourself.
Yeah.
All those things. The obstacle is the way.
I knew this morning.
Stoicism. Let's talk stoicism.
And as the Brits do so well, you guys take the piss out of yourself and each other on a regular basis.
Yeah, but we never say that on the radio because we're not allowed to.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Take the P. You can say take the P. Take the Mickey is what we say. I'm sure that's probably more wrong, actually, if you go back. So here we are, and we have a brand new album. We have this 90-odd date world tour, which is great. Red, green, blue. Okay, so you get a third each.
Get a third each.
So that keeps it even, Stevens. No arguments. Who gets red? Who gets green? Who gets blue? For people who haven't got a clue what I'm talking about, can you please make sense of this?
Yes.
So the project's called Red, Green, Blue. I mean, as long as we've been around, I guess the colors have been associated with us. I've always been red. Zach's always been blue. Isaac's always been green. I don't know. Maybe it's our toothbrushes back when we were kids.
Something like that.
And so this is a project Isaac had wanted to try for several years. And, basically we said, well, each of us are going to take 5 songs and sort of present the 5 songs and say, this is how I want to do them. And
treat them kind of like solo records in effect.
And so we pulled each other in, and, it's a Hanson record, but we did it in partnership with 2 other producer, engineer friends that are incredible. Jim Scott, who's a legend in mixing production from,
Chili Peppers, Tom Petty, Jackson Brown. I mean,
on and on and on. And then David Garza.
I've heard of a couple of those people.
Yeah. David Garza is a friend, an incredible performer and producer, won a Grammy for the Fiona Apple record. So they worked with us. So they were kind of the continuity. But I mean, it was a challenge. It was challenging, but it also tested the creative process. And so we put out a single from each portion of the record to start things off. A red, a green, and a blue portion. And so it just paints a different picture, and it's added to the perspective of the project. And it really just, we've always been a band that has 3 guys that sing and play and write. A lot of bands, that's not the case. And so it was another way to sort of
and better together.
Muscles.
And, everybody gets an equal vote and things like that.
Well, I think it's cool because to me, at this point in our career, it's not just about music. It's about telling stories and finding ways to invite people into what you do.
Or rediscover what you do
and
in a
I
certain way.
think that this kind of a project talks not just about sort of what we are, but what makes us the way we sound, the way we come together, right? And it also, I think, hopefully, when you hear this, it kind of adds this interesting perspective to the whole catalog of music. Listening back to older records and going, oh, I know a little more about Isaac. I know a little more about Taylor. I know a little more about Zach.
And it's also what's not on the record is also interesting as well, because certain things, like
certain
some of
sounds,
some of the more like truly R&B stuff is a little more understated on this
Let's
record.
not talk about what's not on it.
No, but I just think it's interesting.
No, but it's interesting because Stuart Copeland said it's not about the beats you hit, it's about the beats you leave out.
Right.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's part of what makes this record interesting is the things that are on it and the things that are not, because it like Zach said, it highlights the kind of uniqueness of each individual voice, and also on a kind of cosmic level, I guess, I actually really appreciated the creative process because it both put a lot of pressure on each of us as individuals to actually step up and bring a song, bring 5 songs that were worth recording, but it also forced each one of us to show up in the room and say, not this is what I want to do and what I want to play, but ask the other guy, hey, what do you want me to play or what don't you want me to play? Yeah. It kind of puts you in this really interesting creative process.
Zach and I weren't even on Isaac's.
That is the ultimate agency.
I I hate you guys.
I get all the I get the message. Okay.
It's so cool, though, isn't it? It's so. I'm so happy that you're here. We've got a load of people who've got. They want to play the MMMBop Do-Bop game. So you get 1 point for an MMMBop, and you get 2 points for a Do-Bop. You don't have to play this game, but it might be fun.
Okay.
Shall we do it?
I mean, we don't know what it is. So
I think they just locked the door.
I don't
so
really
let's
know
do
what
it.
it is. I can't either. Nikki Wells, love hearing Hanson on the radio this morning. We were lucky enough to see them when they did an outdoor show at Epcot about 9 years ago, and I've loved them ever since.
Amazing.
Is that a 1 point or a 2 point?
Does that comment get a 1 point or a 2 point?
Yeah.
I think it's a 2 point.
So it's a do-bop.
2 point. It's a do-bop.
Okay, you get a do-bop. Well done, Nikki. Hi, Chris. I've been waiting 25 years to see the Hanson boys and finally saw them on Tuesday night in Glasgow and got to meet them after 2. All my 30-year-old dreams came true. They did not disappoint from Carrie Ann in Scotland. MMMBop or do-bop?
Amazing.
See, I say MMMBop because she waited so long to see us.
Interesting. It's just the 1 point there, Carrie Ann. Sorry. It was all going so well.
Now you disappointed her, though, Zach.
Christoph, please thank the boys for giving us MMMBop. I ran a unique little bar called Spirit in Salisbury around 2004. We would have a packed bar every Sunday night playing the best, cheesiest songs. And MMMBop always brought the house down. It was theme song. So many people's memories back then. Hanson Reel says Liam in Salisbury.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I give that a do-bop.
Give it a do-bop. Just
Just
while we're on
cheers
MMMBop, tell us, where did MMMBop come from? Around the kitchen table on the way to school?
we grew
or?
up listening to rock and roll and doo-wop, and
Yeah,
so like
50s
singing
vocal groups and things
so
like
we were making an early indie record. We were actually working on a different song, and kind of went, hey, let's come up with a background part. You're looking for oohs and ahs, and that little chorus sort of was born.
We got a little too catchy and a little too complicated.
And then it was like, no, that's hooky, but that's too much. So it went to the side, and then about a couple years
later,
we slowly started writing those verses. And some things just are waiting to be become. And they just sit there.
But super confident. I mean, it's not bravery; it's the fearlessness of youth. Because to write a song about the bops and the booms and the ramalama ding dong,
and there's some story
by
in
the
the
way,
song. There's some story.
who put the bop in the bop shabop? So here's the funny thing. So we nerded out because we're making that first record that has MMMBop on it. Hello Nowhere's the album.
Yeah.
And we're going in to write with some pretty legendary people, including Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil. We wrote a song called I Will Come to You with them. That was one of the singles. We walk in and I'm like, who put the bop? That's you,
So
Barry.
Barry Mann wrote it.
Barry Mann wrote Who Put the Bop in the Bop Shabop. Right. So
No, he did not co-write MMMBop.
No, he did not co-write MMMBop.
Yeah.
No, but it was just like, for me, that was a really big like nerd out moment.
Yeah.
And he was looking at me going like,
How
you're
do you know
a
that
15,
song?
16-year-old. Why are you like nerding out about this? And I'm like, because that's a great song.
You're
and
a
it was
legend.
a sign.
exactly.
What is the first line of Ram Lam Ding Dong again? Who put the
Who put the bop?
Who put the bop in the
Bop shabop shabop.
Who put the bop in the bop?
Who
Shabop,
put the bop in the bop shabop shabop?
Who put the ram in the ramalama ding dong?
Who put the dip in the dip 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 dip? Who put the what's the
Oh
Who
God.
was that man? See, this
I
is
like
the
to shake his hand. He made my baby fall in love with me.
that turn at the end of the chorus is what that is amazing.
Because there's
Conrad.
a very famous songwriter in the UK. He's actually Scottish, and his name is Wiley McPherson. That's his real name. His nom de vinyl is different, right?
Yeah.
But he said it was his ambition to come up with a song as nonsensical but also as popular as Who Put the Bop in the Bop Shabop de Bop.
Yeah.
So he came up with a song called Shangalang.
Yeah.
It says, and we sang Shangalang as we ran with the band singing do-up-a-do-a-do-a. And then you're on it with bloody MMMBop. I saw on my own show because I'm so happy. Johnny from Manchesterford. Me and my best friend Sam. I loved Hanson as kids, now sending me videos of the band when he sees them on the music channels. It's our way of keeping in touch. We'll just give that a quick mbop. That's a one-pointer. Morning, Chris. Loving Hanson this morning. Please will you ask them for all the masked singer gossip, says Lisa in Becca. Just 2 points for the question.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
go.
Good question.
We were
Yeah.
guests on the Masked Singer show, which
Yes.
I don't-
In the US.
in the U.S., which is a pretty bizarre show.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the gossip. I mean, there's a lot of spandex. You're inside.
you're
inside the
I wouldn't recommend doing it with 3 people.
People
inside
say,
of
do you
a
guys stay
costume.
close?
Yeah.
Right? And in that show, I mean, we were inside one costume.
You don't
together.
want to be that
It was,
close.
it was wow.
How hot does your head get?
Hot. It's
Very
in
hot.
fact,
They have fans inside,
Do
or
they?
they try and hold them inside.
Well,
very
if
clever.
you have a fantasy about being a theme park mascot, that's the way to
That's
do
the
it.
show.
We experienced
for you.
it, and I'm good. No, I'm good.
That's
No,
the
but
way to
we
roll.
did have a lot of fun. I mean, it was a challenge in a cool way because here you are, singing all these random songs, some of which, are classics that you absolutely have fallen in love with, like Man in the Mirror, and some, or like
Brand new
Elton John,
tracks, We did I'm Still Standing,
I'm Still Standing. But then you're also doing modern stuff like from Jason Derulo and Bruno Mars, and
Shawn
it was
Mendes.
fun. Shawn Mendes.
It's a
that
big
one
show
was
here.
great.
So my kids love The Masked Singer.
Yeah.
And they've just starting a new one called The Masked Dancer. You know about this one?
Yeah.
I know. I saw them filming secretly. I said, "You're secretly filming trials for The Masked Dancer." They went, "Shh, don't tell anyone." I said, "I'm filming it for Instagram." Is that okay? They went, "Yeah, all right then, it's fine."
It is really freeing though to walk around in a costume where no one knows who you are.
Of course
you can
it
do
is.
anything.
Of course it is.
Not anything.
Well, you're right.
Brian
Kelly
Cranston
learned that the wrong way.
Brian Cranston went to a sort of some Comic Con, Breaking Bad Comic Con, and the only way he could get around this without, because he wanted to look around without being recognised, they sold Brian Cranston masks. So he bought one and he put it on and he went round and he apparently had the best on.
I think there's so many careers paths that they're missing on there. You're like the masked plumber, I mean, think like you never know who's coming to fix your pipes.
I know. Well,
It's Brian Cranston.
Off the back of us spotting them secretly filming, we did an Instagram film. We should show it to you before you go. And we came up with future possibilities, future pitches for The Masked Singer. Because The Masked Singer sounds ridiculous, and it sort of is, but it's also brilliant because the kids love it, right? Yeah. And The Masked Dancer is going to be great. So we thought about our ultimate was the masked mask. Okay. So you just have to guess which mask is behind. Anyway, do you know what?
Mask is behind.
It's a crazy world, guys. It could happen.
It's this mask.
So how is the tour landing? How are your audiences to you, and how are you to your audiences, and how is the whole experience?
It's been amazing.
It's been absolutely amazing. I mean, 2 years of not touring, it really puts in perspective how awesome it is to do the job that we do.
And you always knew that anyway. You've always appreciated it, but
Well,
even
you
more.
have,
But
there's
it's-
this
I think the
huge
amazing-
amount of gratitude. This feels everyone's so happy to be there. I mean, us on stage, obviously, but then the fans. There's this sense that everyone is kind of. You talked about, I think, Glastonbury and other things like earlier before on the show, but like you're so happy to just be there sharing that moment.
What's not
Some of the
to
best
like?
audiences we've ever played for, as far as I'm
And
concerned.
you-
Like consistently, just everybody's just into it.
The energy's amazing. Yeah.